getting that team together the way it was, and it was Brazzy then became manager, and we beat them 5 or 6. And I remember walking off the pitch beside Ronan Scannell, and Ronan said to me, he says, there's something about us this year. It was the most incredible 3 or 4 years I've ever had in my life. I got a phone call, asked me would I be interested in Lisburn Distillery, and couldn't believe it because obviously the size of this club, the history of the club. He says you're nuts if you turn it down. So I couldn't really, and I've been proven right. I've loved it since I've started. It's like win at all costs.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the PSA podcast. Today we are delighted to have former Cliftonville player and current Lisburn Distillery manager Barry Johnston on the show.
Thank you, mate. Glad to be here.
Good to have you on, Barry. We start the podcast every time with the same kind of question. What's your earliest memories from playing football? How did you get involved in the game?
I lived in Dublin for 8 years when I was a kid, and I remember big grass field out the front of the house where we lived in Tala in Killinarden, actually not far from Shamrock Rovers ground, where I ended up going on loan for a while. And I just remember Mum and Dad come back with a pair of old Adidas boots with an orange sole and hand me them like they were new, but it was them days. There was no brand. It wasn't Cope Mondale's Predator. Don't know what they were, but I just remember the orange sole. And once I got football boots on, ran out the field, and that was it really. And never looked back. I was obsessed with the sport whenever I got those boots.
So you say you were born and raised in down south, and your first club up in this area was Cliftonville.
Well, a kid that came up, and I was really lucky. The cul-de-sac across me in Poglass, where I was basically raised when we moved up. My parents got a house there, and the guy Jim Heaney, he literally lived 50 yards from the house. He's otherwise known as Big Dino. He looked after Celtic boys, and like 8 years of age. There was at the end days there was no football until under 10 or under 11, but he used to let me go down and train with Celtic boys and bring me everywhere with him. And again, it was just one of those things, you know. I was a young Celtic fan, and they wore green and white hoops, so there was an affinity there. And away I went. I just went to Celtic boys training, and he let me join in training sessions, like I said, and I loved it, and it just took off from there. And then the natural progression is obviously supporting Celtic, not being able to get the game, so I went and watched Cliftonville games as often as I could, and from then on to get the chance to go and play for Cliftonville even at under 18 level and reserve level was unbelievable for me. But then to go on and have the career I had at Cliftonville was, you know, like dreams come true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're playing for Celtic boys. You must realise you're quite good at football. You make the jump into Cliftonville under 18s. Was there a stage where you kind of thought, I have a chance of making this, or were you just kind of taking it as you got it? Or
I must have been all right, because I played in Man United School of Excellence with David Healy, Warren Feeney, Aaron Hughes, you know, and Grant McCann might have been a year older, but that was the quality of players. It was picked to play along with at Man United School of Excellence. Eddie Coulter picked me, so I knew it wasn't bad, but I didn't think I'm going to be an amazing footballer. I was real, like all my mates, Michael McLeave, Noel Currigan, they got trials for Bolton, and where they signed 2 year apprenticeships, and they got to live in Bolton, and I was really jealous and heartbroken, you know, the fact that two mates got to go away to play football in England, and I'm sitting back here, maybe still playing for Cliftonville under 18s, but it is what it is. What happened to me, you know, it's probably written in the stars, isn't it? I broke my leg. Was probably told by a few people it would never be the same again, but you know, it's just the mental side of football really fascinates me now that I'm done and retired. You know, I'm sure we'll get on to it later on about my degree and stuff, but in football and business management, you know, some of the modules involved psychology, and I've just been really, really taken by it. So what it spoke about me was at a young age I didn't know I was mentally strong. I just refused to let anyone tell me what I could and can't do, and then I just broke a leg, back to Cliftonville, made my debut at a young age at Cliftonville, but then again never kicked on, and went and lived in America after that for a couple of years, which helped me recover from the leg break, and then back home and I signed for Coleraine, where probably my Irish League career took off, probably a bit older than what I expected it would have, or a bit longer than what I expected, but again I have to thank Marty Quinn for that. He gave me my debut at Cliftonville, and then as soon as I come back from America, off the plane, I phoned Marty, and that was it, away I went.
So you signed for Coleraine then, and as you say, that's when your first steps into kind of proper senior Irish League football happened.
But that team was unbelievable. Paddy McAllister, Jody Tolan, Sean Armstrong, Stephen Beattie, Tony Gorman, Rory Hamill, Stuart Clanahan. Still keep in touch with them all. In fact, we've started a group for the Irish Cup that we won, as part of that team. I think it was something really ridiculous, like 20 years maybe since they won it. So we're talking about having a night out for it. So that team is unbelievable, and to get the chance to go and play with them and learn with them, and after being more or less full-time football for 2 years in America, it allowed me to grow and develop and be around men and see what it took to be better. If you watch Tony Gorman, he was coming to the latter end of his career, but his dedication, his fitness in pre-season, his staying behind, hitting his free kicks, hitting his shots, doing extra, all that stuff allowed me to actually realise what it takes to be an Irish League player. And I was lucky, like I say, Marty was very good to me my whole career. Give me a couple of games towards the end of the season and give me confidence, and then from the next season on I was able to play games. I think I played almost 100 games with him, so it was a brilliant experience, brilliant club, and again I'll always be thankful for all them players for helping me.
So that was a really successful time at Coleraine with winning the Irish Cup and kind of getting your foot in through the door and playing so many games in a first team environment. Yeah,
it was brilliant. But Gareth McCauley was there as well, and Gary Havern, with a good bunch of lads. It was brilliant, and we're all, like I say, you're probably, kids now are probably naive watching football. They watch match of the day and they think this is the way I'm going to play football. But when you're surrounded by those type of players, like I mentioned, you realise quickly that you have to adapt. It's if you try and play your own game, you'll be found out and you'll not play Irish League football. But if you adapt to the way the men around you want you to be, then you'll fit in. And that's the way it was. Just I used to travel in the same cars, Packy and Jody, and like I say, they were so dedicated, just the desire to win, to be the best they could be, and it rubbed off on myself, and that's what it was. I wasn't necessarily physically massive, but I knew my fitness and I knew a strength. If I stayed fitter than most, it would give me a bit of an extra edge, and that's what probably kept me in the team. But certainly I never had a position nailed down. I was moved from right back to right midfield to centre midfield, but that's what happens when you're a young kid trying to make your way, and I never complained, just got on with it, and I knew that it would be very hard for me to step in front of Paddy McAllister or Tony Gorman, so I was real about the situation. I was just happy to get the experience at Coleraine.
So you're having such a successful time at Coleraine, but throughout your career there seems to be a drawback to Cliftonville all the time. What was if you're playing so many games, having such a successful time at Coleraine, what was the drawback to Cliftonville again?
It was my fault. I went to New York. I probably shouldn't have, to my cousin's wedding, and it was during the season. It was January, and I came back, and I think it annoyed Marty, and not that we ever fell out, but Packy had left because of the financial trouble that happened. Coleraine, Jody had left, Sean Armstrong had left, so it was just me and probably Stephen Beattie travelling up and down by ourselves, and it just got to the point where I think it run its course. Like I say, a brilliant club, and I've nothing bad to say about the club, and never will, but I just think at that stage the fans were probably fed up with me because I'd done that on them, and it's completely understandable, by the way. And I had a couple of offers from likes of Larne, and I think it was Glenavon maybe, but obviously when Cliftonville came in and Tommy Breslin and Eddie met me, it was just going to go there because I knew all the boys who were there anyway, so it was an easy move for me.
And having not really played a lot of senior football for Cliftonville, did you see this as an opportunity to go in and get games for kind of like, not your boyhood club, but the club you kind of started out with? It was
Eddie, if you remember back then, Eddie was a pioneer of actual playing football on the ground in Irish League. I had to give credit where credit's due. He put together a team like Conor Downey, George McMullen, Fra Murphy, Sean Friars, renowned, just quality footballers. Ronan Skinnell was there, Chris Skinnell, who loved playing football on the ground, and Eddie really encouraged it, whereas other Irish League clubs didn't. And Coleraine was just go out and win at all costs, but Eddie actually had a style, and he brought me in because he thought I fitted that style. But it was strange, he played me right midfield and left midfield and right back and left back, and never played me centre midfield because Sean Cleary was there. He was outstanding. And we were playing a pre-season game against Wrexham down in Newcastle in County Down, and Sean was late, and I actually begged Eddie to give me a chance in midfield and begged and begged, and he waited right till the last minute till he'd no other choice, and he says, right, I'll throw you in. And I got my chance, played with Conor Downey, done well, and then next couple of games done well again in centre midfield, and then it just came to the point where he couldn't drop me or Conor, and Sean ended up moving on. What a player, by the way, you know, so that gave me a break, but I have to admit Eddie's style of football really suited me at that stage in my career.
And you're playing well for Cliftonville, and then a loan move comes up?
It was the same again, Cliftonville, it was when the ground was getting developed. Again, I probably thought it was better than what it was and wanted to push on and maybe made demands off Eddie and Gerard Lawler that the club wasn't in a position to do, and I just couldn't understand why. Again, being naive and being young, you know, you admit, well, I'm happy enough now to admit that I made mistakes. You know, probably was a mistake leaving Cliftonville, but to give the opportunity to go down and play under Michael O'Neill, not that I played much, but it was like probably the biggest club in Ireland, biggest support, biggest fan base, best stadium now that it's finished in Shamrock Rovers. And I have to admit I loved it. It was full-time football. I don't regret it for 1 minute, even though I didn't play as much as I wanted to, but the whole experience of going down and seeing how he works, first and foremost, Michael O'Neill, and the coaches, Trevor Crowley, who I still keep in touch with, and going up and down with Tommy Reid as well, was a brilliant experience, and getting to play with the players I played with. Even the current manager, Stephen Bradley, I'm still right and friendly with. You know, like what a player he was, played for Arsenal, and you know, just unfortunate the way his career ended. But it was amazing time. Playing through the summer was completely brand new to me. Sitting on the bench, you were cold, you were warm instead of being freezing, because I was on the bench a lot. But it was an outstanding experience, and one that I don't regret. Well, I regret leaving Cliftonville, but I don't regret not going and having that experience, because I would have loved to have done it at some stage in my career. It just happened to be at that time. It came upon me, and that's what I done.
And Cliftonville was part-time at the time?
Cliftonville were part-time, yeah.
Shamrock Rovers were full-time.
Full-time.
How did you adjust to that? You know, did you see any big differences?
Oh, well, I was exhausted. See, for the first 3-4 weeks, getting your body adapted to training every day. I'd never thought I would have, I would have struggled as much as I'd done, but in the evening, I was having to sleep in the afternoon, after training sessions, to try and recover as quick as I could for the next day's training session. Dad was much better down there as well. I learned so much about Dad from their captain, Shane Robertson. He actually done sports nutrition as well. So, I watched him watch what he ate and taught myself a few odds and ends about that as well. So, listen, I try to pick wee things up as I go along my whole career, even current day managing. And those experiences were unbelievable. Realising the transition from full-time, or from part-time to full-time football, how much it takes a toll on your bodies. It's massive difference. And I think Linfield as well, if you look at their model from when they went from part-time to full-time, a lot of players I speak to, because I'm down there working, they tell me the exact same thing. It took them so long to get up to speed, and later on the season, even Lauren, first year, second year, their players struggled with burnout and fatigue. But again, it's just part of the process of becoming a full-time footballer.
So your time at Shamrock Rovers came to an end. Was that just a decision made on minutes played?
No, I didn't do enough to merit Damon's, making it a permanent contract, and I wasn't good enough, to be honest. I had a couple of good games, but it wasn't nowhere near enough to earn the trust of someone like Michael O'Neill. So again, could have went back to Cliftonville, but Eddie was still there, so me and him didn't really see eye to eye at this stage. Obviously, that's all forgot about now. Me and him got on really well, but I lifted the phone to Marty again, my go-to man. He was at Glenavon, and phoned him, and he says, "Yep, just come up and we'll get a deal done." So up I went to Glenavon. I think it was 6 months there, maybe just over, and I just couldn't settle at the club. I just couldn't settle at Glenavon again. Brilliant club, Blackie, the kit man. As soon as you walk in, Packy McCoskey told me, bring him in a bottle of Buckfast and you'll get whatever you want. Brought him in a bottle of Buckfast first night. Next thing you know, second night, had extra pair of training bottoms, extra jumpers, hats, whatever you needed. So it was a brilliant experience in terms of, meeting new people and seeing how it was the first club where all your washing and all was done for you. So you didn't take nothing home, you just had a soap bag. Brilliant that way, but it's just a club that I couldn't settle with. Listen, there were brilliant people. Rory Hamill ended up joining as well, and William McDonough, Trevor, Crowley, and all the boys from Dublin. So getting to play with all them was brilliant, but it was just, I just couldn't settle.
Just bad timing?
Not bad. I was crap for him. I genuinely was. I was terrible for him. I remember going down to play against Newry, and Peter Murray was there, Minto. Like, he's a Cliftonville legend, one of the best players, probably my favourite Cliftonville player, but one of the best players ever to play Irish League football. And he was assistant manager to Jerry Flynn at Newry, and he called me over and he says, "What's the crack with you?" And I says, "I'm starting left midfield today for Glenavon." So again, it was just because I was out of form, out of sorts, whatever it was. I was still out the left hand side, and he said to me, he says, "There's only one club for you, Jota." He says, "I'm being genuinely honest." He says, "At Cliftonville, you'll give 30% more than you'd give at any other club." He says, "You're wasting your time anywhere else." And he was right, because literally, I think 3 or 4 weeks after that, I was on the phone to Gerard Lawler begging to get back to Cliftonville. And we played Glentoran. It was the very last night of the transfer window, and we played Glentoran. And something happened to Cliftonville player. I think one of the Cliftonville players got a bad injury. I sent the midfielder, and they needed someone. And I literally went into the change room after the game. Marty says, "Come here, I need to see you." He says, "Cliftonville have put in a bid for you." Now, I'd bid probably about 30 quid, because that's all I was worth then, I promise you. And I says, "I want to go." And he says, "I thought so." Marty's a Cliftonville man too. He knows the pull that club has on you. So, to be fair, he made it real easy for me. He didn't have to be, but he did. And I literally got my release form, jumped in my car and had to drive to Gerard Lawler's house in South Belfast. Drove the whole way there, got him to sign it. The transfer was done, but I didn't even know what wages. I was on a good wage at Glenavon, and I had to go home and tell Mrs. to sign for Cliftonville. And I didn't know what I was getting. I got to train on Tuesday, and Gerard gave me pennies, and I mean pennies, but I didn't care. I was happy. I was back at Cliftonville, where I just genuinely felt comfortable all my career.
And this time round at Cliftonville, it was the start of a really successful.
Not at the start. Eddie was there still, and the club was very inconsistent. Good one week, bad the next week. Still played that nice football under Eddie that Eddie demanded, but we just didn't have that, not belief, but when you play against Linfield and you step on the pitch, and in the end days when I used to play against them, they had that aura about them, when they knew they fancied themselves 1,000,000%. So we never had that. If we turned up and we beat Linfield, it was brilliant. It was like the highlight of your season, beating Linfield. But Linfield went out and done this every single week, and Cliftonville didn't have that, but still very inconsistent. But then once Liam Boyce came back from Leverkusen, didn't really. It was again same as me. Liam was high and low, and he wasn't really playing well. He played most of that season reserves. Joe Gormley wasn't there yet. He came that following pre-season, and we were just the same team basically as that left was there when I came back. So a little bit older, more experience, more appearances between that squad, but certainly no one could have imagined what happened after that. Once Joe and Liam started playing the way they did, and Marty Donnelly joined. Mark Smith and Conor Devlin joined too. Obviously, we didn't know nothing about Mark Smith, but how good he was ridiculous. And Conor Devlin, I'll still stand over this. I think he's the best keeper I've ever played with. So, getting that team together the way it was, and it was Brezzy then became manager that got these players, and we always laugh and joke, God rest his soul, but he was the luckiest manager you've ever seen in your life. He didn't know nothing about Mark Smith, Conor Devlin, but they fell on his lap, and Joe Gormley fell on his lap from Crumlin Star across the road, and it all just clicked, and it was the most incredible 3 or 4 years I've ever had in my life playing football.
So you finish that season and you come in pre-season, and these new players are being signed and stuff. What's kind of the feel about the place? Can you feel that we're on to something, or were you just kind of, we'll start the season, see where it goes, or what was kind of what was the atmosphere around the place like? What I'm trying to say. It
was different. I remember we played Crumlin United, and see previous seasons, no matter like when we went and played Crumlin, we always played them pre-season. Anytime we went up, it was a real tough game. I know, like 1-0, 2-0, and you felt like, jeez, that was real tough. But we went up this pre-season, and we beat them 5 or 6. And I remember walking off the pitch beside Ronan Scannell, and Ronan said to me, he says, "There's something about us this year." And I always remember it, from that season we won the league, and then right enough, just everything just clicked. It was unfortunate Chris Scannell got injured, and Brezzy had no choice but to throw Joe in. Mark Smith and Jamie McGovern didn't know each other and hadn't played with each other. Ended up probably the best centre-half pair the Cliftonville have had. One big, one small, fast. George McMullen ended up playing right back for a long part of the season and could control games from right back. Liam Boyce found his groove, found his his confidence, and just was obviously probably the best player Cliftonville have had ever to come through their teams. Any sort of Cliftonville team, I think most people would say Liam Boyce was the one that's been the best. So all that happened, and then myself and Katney, who were probably very similar, and people saying, "Oh, you can't play them two together," but we struck up a real good relationship and a good know-how, and the two of us, like he was aggressive, I was aggressive, so but the two of us could play a bit. I think that there was probably, understated. Unless you played with us, you didn't realise, Jesus, they weren't actually that bad on the ball. So everything just clicked, and those 2 years were just the best ever. Like the 2 years we won the league, it was unbelievable.
2 years back to back.
2 years back to back. It was madness. And they say the second year, is like good teams win a league, but great teams defend their league title. We were a great team, and for the first 6 months of that second season, we were so inconsistent. But then once we sat down, we had a chat, amongst ourselves as a bunch of players, and asked ourselves what we wanted to do. And from the end of January, I think, till the end of the season, I think we went unbeaten the rest of that year. So again, my opinion, just because I played in it, it was an unbelievable, great team.
And just take us inside, the change rooms of that team.
The stories I come.
what was like? Was the training always must have been 100 mile an hour? The camaraderie was there. What was the 2 or 3 key ingredients that made that team so successful?
The first thing was we actually, I think, where did we go? We went and played was it Wales, maybe in TNS, in Wales, and that had a couple of nights in the through. Obviously, Mark Smith, he ended up in my room and get through him and Mark. So you get to meet him and you realise what he's about, being a professional player. And then that was good team bonding, played a couple of games, obviously came home. And pre-season that year was really, really intense. I remember probably the team wanted to do something. Changing rooms on training nights, honest to God, the 6v6s and the 9v9s, I'll just use an example. Myself and George McMullen used to kick lumps out of each other. Best mates after training, but see, during that, we'd do anything for your team to win. But there was no bad feelings, anything. Just we all pushed each other and demanded more of each other every single session. No one ever took it lightly in training, except Joe Gormley. He used to go into left back and get the ball and shoot. So, but he was the only one. But the rest of us, honest to God, it was insane. And again, even in warm-ups, I remember playing Dungannon in a warm-up, and remember the wee small pitch out the back, it's 4G now they have, that used to be grass, and they used to train on that used to be split in two, so us to warm up, them to warm up. Myself and Ryan Katney hit each other that hard of a tackle, that we bounced up and started punching the head of each other in the warm-up, we were slapping each other, and we looked around, the full Dungannon team was standing looking at the two of us, after it was all broke up, and we knew we had them beat, but again, it was just our desire to do well. If I'd have pulled out a tackle and he'd have pulled out a tackle, we would have got tortured. So we hit each other a real hard tackle and ended up being a fight after in a warm-up. Shook our hands in the change room, out on the pitch, and away we won. I think we won 2 or 3-0. But that's the type of people we were, where you were surrounded by men. I spoke about that Coleraine team. That Cliftonville team felt like a bunch of men that wanted to do something and not just have their careers go by without any silverware. So we all demanded loads of each other, and I think we got our just rewards for it.
And that was 2 league titles. Was there any other success along the way?
The first one was a League Cup game. We actually played Crusaders, so it was North Belfast Derby. And I've always said this, when I used to go to watch Cliftonville, support them as a kid, it was always the nearly guys. So I forget how many penalty shootouts we lost in at Windsor, and weren't allowed to play Linfield up at Solitude, so while every home game was at Windsor, so I remember going down maybe 6 times a season to go down and watch them play at Windsor, and beating cup finals by Glenavon. It was the day I passed my driving test actually. So beating the cup final by Glenavon, and then League Cups, County Antrim's, Cliftonville were always the nearly men, so that League Cup we won a 4-0. Crusaders could have actually been 2 or 3 up in the first couple of minutes, but Conor Devlin was outstanding, give us a good foundation to go and win that game. But if I'd have just won that League Cup, I'd have been like really happy with my career at Cliftonville, because you're one of a select group that's actually won something, you know, for that club, because they haven't had much success. Well, hadn't until that point. I think the league couple of league titles, and obviously the '79 team that won the Irish Cup, which is still held. They're still held in the highest esteem. I mean, you still see Emmets every Saturday, and fans are flocking around them to speak to them, and you know, get their photographs took with Marty Quinn and Peter McCusker and that when they see them. So I'd have been over the moon with my career to go home with that League Cup medal, get the jersey and all framed and have the medal there. That would have been happy. That would have been my pride of place. But to go on then and to win a league, win another League Cup, win a league and win another League Cup before I left was just, it was madness. Like you would never ever have dreamt that, or I couldn't have dreamt that. So
Cliftonville then, your time at Cliftonville unfortunately comes to an end then?
Well, I was, like I say, I was lucky. I had, at that time in my career, I moved house, I moved to Lisburn, and then my wife was pregnant with our first boy, Flynn. So I always had my jersey from winning the league that year, my league medal and my League Cup medal, and then we got pregnant very, very quickly after, and she was pregnant again, and I thought to myself, shit, I've only got one medal, 2 kids, you know. And next thing you know, I played against Celtic at Champions League game, got Scott Brown's jersey, and probably the best night of my career playing football. Obviously being a Celtic fan, a Cliftonville fan, that was just one of the highlights of my career ever. But the next season, to do the same again and get my jersey done and have an our boy, Fearja, and then have 2 medals, 2 kits, you know, spread like separate fur. Didn't have to worry about, I've only got one medal for that, and none for that. That put me at ease. So even though I left Cliftonville, I was still happy the fact that I've got to play for Cliftonville. I've won this year. My kids can be proud of me because they'll have 1 jersey each, and there you are, it's on the wall. So certainly it hurt me, but it was because of a fractured kneecap. So it was kind of took out of my hands leaving Cliftonville, which everyone would love to do it their own way. But you know, it is what it is. It was a brilliant career. I've made brilliant amount of appearances, been successful, and like I say, having those little memories from my 2 kids and all those moments, you know, photographed. Like I've photographed me and my wee lad after win the league a second time. I poured it down. That all means the world to me, you know, all framed. So it was an unbelievable career at Cliftonville, and you know, I'd never have one single regret about even leaving, you know, when I done.
So then you had one more move then, and that was into the Carrick Rangers.
Yeah, like I said, a fractured kneecap. Actually, it was St Stephen's Day or Boxing Day. You know, North Belfast Derby. Myself and Daggy Cadell went for a tackle, and I felt a bit. We hit Clive's knees, but it felt sore. But I still played on. I played on for about another 10 minutes, and I went up for a header. And when I came back down, the 2 tendons pulled the kneecap apart. And I just remember, I thought someone threw a stone. And that wouldn't surprise me being from Crusaders fans, so I'm only joking. But I went, and I heard me, shit, that's sore. Looked around, couldn't see no stone, so I knew I'd done something bad, and went in the change room, and my good mate, Johnny Campbell, came in and literally put his finger right down between the kneecap. It blew up into 3 and pushed it down. He says, you fractured your kneecap. So that was good crack, having to phone the wife in, because she was heavily pregnant with a 1-year-old in the house. An R1 due in 4 weeks time, and then a broken kneecap. So then I went to hospital. Obviously they done the x-ray and all, sent me home, says look, or no, sorry, didn't send me home, kept me in for a couple of days, waited till the swelling went down, then done the surgery, pinned it all together, and then I was just recovery time again, you know. But at my age, what was it then, must have been 30, 33, 34, and I was half-arsed about the recovery, you know, tried my best, but I wanted to be where I was 6 months before, and couldn't be arsed with a long process of having to do small exercises and stuff. So kind of not having the right mindset, right frame of mind hurt me now. I know that, and for the longevity of my career, I maybe could have played on if I'd have done it right and played another few years, but it is what it is. I was offered a move to Carrick. See it last year. They were going to put me through my B licence as part of the deal. So and it was Gary Havern again, who a real good friend of mine. So and Stephen Mills. So away I went, and listen, it was a brilliant year. You know, staying up in the last game of the season. Everyone remembers that Miguel Chinez overhead kick in the last minute to keep us up. So brilliant experience. Getting to do a bit of coaching again, see different things. You know, playing at the bottom of the league instead of at the top for those years really reset me and refocused me about what I wanted to do, and you know, being older and speaking to young kids and speaking to younger players and trying to help them along with their careers as a, you know, on the pitch was really focused me on what I wanted to do, which was go straight from football into coaching. And just that's the way it happened. Gary moved to Glentoran, and then Kieran Harding came into Carrick and asked me would I help him coach, so that was me straight into the coaching side of it.
Straight in. So coming towards the last couple of years of your playing career, that's what you were kind of turning your head towards, was definitely going, because other people we spoke to before maybe say, I came to the end of my career and I had no notions of going to coaching, but my mate told me to come take a team or whatever, then that gave me the bug. You kind of had that in your head that that's what you wanted to go into.
Always.
Straight away.
The only reason why I didn't do it earlier was because I wanted to play as long as I could. I was the most selfish footballer you ever met in your life. Like, even, you know, family holidays, me and my missus and all, I wouldn't have, after that one in New York, by the way, I wouldn't have booked anything where I missed pre-season or much of pre-season, you know. So like I say, I was selfish. I knew my career wasn't going to be long, so I wanted to get as much out of it as I could. So I didn't do no coaching badges while I was playing, purely because I didn't want no distractions. So everything just went in the playing side of it. But as soon as the career was done, I'd enrolled on the B licence for the following year. Went there confident in myself and, you know, what I felt I could do as a coach. But the minute you're put up there and you're having to stand in front of your peers, me 20 of them, geez, it's a culture shock. Like, you think you know everything about football, but when you see what Sean Paul and the rest of the staff do, it's you know, during the whole the B licence program, it's such an eye opener. It's completely different to what you think it's going to be. You know, as a coach, and him and Nigel Best were unbelievable, and Alan Nixon as well. You know, they guided me along those 4 years from B licence to A. It was outstanding and a constant learning. So it was an amazing time. So you're now focusing more on the coaching. How did you adjust from playing to coaching? Well, the Carrick thing, I wasn't really training every week. You know, with Carrick, it was maybe one night because my knee was sore playing. So you were still doing wee bits and pieces on the training pitch. You know, with Gary, he'd been telling you all what to do. You know, go and look after our box, go and do this. So it kind of wasn't too difficult of a transformation. What you did realise was you're no longer, well, you were the coaching part. Not now as a manager, you're not one of the boys, but you know, coaching, you can still be there and still have the laugh. So you'll always miss that side playing. But going into coaching though, I was happy with it. You know, planning your sessions, I loved all that and what I was going to do, and watching other coaches and seeing what they were doing and how could I make that relevant to what we want to do as you know, in our team. And listen, Carrick was brilliant, and then Mark Smith asked me would I want to go to Cliftonville under 18s, and again up I went, and because it was Cliftonville, had a brilliant year there. You know, playing it like we Keith McConnell, Donald Rocks, you know, Owen Casey, coached all Lemons, and was really lucky to go and find them, and what they all played against me. And the next day I was driving about the roads looking for them for high-end kids, you know, get them into a team. Wanted a strong team, and we'd done that at Cliftonville, and it was brilliant. And then done so well that Barry Gray asked me to go up and give him a hand with the first team, and I couldn't say no. So away I went for a year with Barry, and it was brilliant again. Irish Cup final, which of course Cliftonville lose because it's what we do. Qualified for Europe, got to be part of the coaching staff on a European trip. Barry was very, very good to me, and still is very good to me in terms of, you know, teach me about budgets, how to, you know, organise planning. He's the most organised coach I've ever seen in my life, or a manager I've ever seen in my life. So getting to see all that was brilliant, you know, and plus being part of an elite group, obviously Cliftonville, working with top players, your sessions had to be better, and you had to make sure the players were all interested and, you know, didn't get bored, which I felt like I was able to do now because I was a bit more experienced, a bit more confident in myself. It wasn't like that first time standing up in front of, you know, the boys on the coaching badges. So it just felt natural to me, and away I went. And I'm a full-time coach now. I've put enough into it. I've done a degree in football and business management, like I said. So I've just always wanting to do better, and football is the road that I've chosen to go down and, you know, educate myself and be better at. So any chance I got, I was always watching different coaches, always online, reading stuff and, you know, like reading coaching books, reading management books, and it's the path that I've went down. It's so far, touch wood, the secretary sitting there, that it hasn't been too bad. It's been quite successful.
So just before we move on to your first proper managerial job, you mentioned there about your full-time coach and you've got a degree. Do you just want to give us a bit of an insight into that, what you actually do away from the club side of it?
Every day I work with NIFL, so a football management company in NIFL. We like 2 or 3 players out of each club every year apply for our course, and it's a full-time course, so it's full-time training, plus they get a B-Tech as well as part of the full-time training. So like today on the pitch, like 20 players, 4 goalkeepers, they get a session. Tomorrow will be the same. Wednesday they're in the gym, Thursday session, Wednesday gym. That's my job. I'm lucky enough to be involved coaching decent quality players every single day. I love it. It's different from what I do in the evenings here at Distillery. It's all for development, whereas Distillery in the evenings, it's about winning. So it's a nice release sometimes, you know, after the odd bad result, which we had in the first couple of months, the first 6 months at Distillery. It was still nice to go back and be refreshed by young kids' enthusiasm and wanting to learn. So that I really enjoy it every single day. It's unbelievable. And the degree, I remember going to a Clifton under 18s, went in to leave in a match card, and I heard Dermy O'Carroll was in the building, you know, working for IFA, and I said, I'll call around and see Dermy, and I picked up a wee leaflet, and it was a degree from University of Ulster in football and business management. And I thought, what's this all about? And went home and said to my wife, what do you think? And she says, well, you've always wanted to get a degree, so why not? And it was a part-time course, so it suited me, obviously, with my work, you know, part-time. So I left I think I started actually when I was still in Bombardier. I left Bombardier a couple of months after I started that degree, and being able to work full-time in a football environment where I wasn't working as many hours was brilliant for me to get the degree done. So, you know, still speak to Kyle Ferguson and all the tutors who put me through that degree, and it's one of the best things I've done, to be honest.
Fantastic. So you make your way into your first manager's job at St James's Swifts.
Yeah.
How you want to tell us how the move from Cliftonville under 18s to that at St James's Swifts came about?
Cliftonville 18s, and then it was Cliftonville first team, and obviously Barry left, so I left as well, and then Packy McAllister, he was at Sport and Leisure and asked me would I come in and give him a hand. So obviously Packy's a really, really good friend, so went in, gave him a hand, got me out of the house, kept me involved with football. And then I was just I was asked to apply for the job at St James's Swifts when the manager's job came available, and Packy was going to come in and kind of help me, you know, like mentor me again, because I'm never embarrassed to admit it, but still learning, still need to learn, was naive, didn't have my own manager's job, you know, like where I was in complete control. Obviously with Barry, you were assistant manager, so he was still dictating, you know, decisions. So went in, and Packy was brilliant for me again, you know, told me when I needed to maybe calm things down, not get too obsessed with results, not get too obsessed with performance on Saturdays, and help me my way through it. And then St James's, brilliant club, absolutely amazing club. Some of the staff or the volunteers behind the scenes, what they do for that club is unbelievable. And it was brilliant. I was able to plan a pre-season, my own planning, no friendlies, training sessions, and the players all bought into it. And with a brilliant season, just fell short the first season of winning the league, and then obviously COVID hit. So it was like 2 years of the wilderness, really. You know, football was on, football was off, football was on. And then the last year we got back in and got a full season. We won the Ballymena District League. So it was successful. Really enjoyed my time. But once we won that league, I kind of knew that I wanted to, you know, challenge myself again at a higher level, because I always want to challenge myself, don't want to sit comfortable. I could have sat there and signed more players and maybe won that league again, but it's not really what I want to do. I really want to challenge myself. So I got a phone call from Colin, asked me would I be interested in Lisburn Distillery, and couldn't believe it, because obviously the size of this club, the history of the club, and obviously just what's happened to it, you know, everyone knows about. But we're trying to put things in place to get us back where we feel we belong, and it was a no-brainer for me. You know, felt awful having to go and tell St James's, but at the same time, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. And spoke to Kieran Stitt and Brendan Shannon, my brother Gavin. It was obviously, I wanted his backroom staff and asked them what they think. They says, you're nuts if you turn it down. So I couldn't really. So, and I've been proven right. I've loved it since I've started.
I just want to go back before we talk about Distillery. I just want to go back and speak a little bit about you've went from assistant coach into manager's job at St James's Swifts. Was there much that you drew from your previous experiences working under other managers? Things you liked, things you didn't like, things maybe Barry Gray done, things maybe Tommy Breslin done. Oh, well, you just kind of like making up your own wee personality out of each manager.
Always. Like Tommy Breslin, best man manager I've ever had in my life. Michael O'Neill, the most attention to detail. Barry Gray, the most organised. You know, you take wee bits out of different people. And again, Eddie Patterson, so persistent and wanting to play the same way all the time. You know, stuck to his, you know, his principles. And I admire that about him, you know. So you pick up with, and then Marty Quinn, for a manager to get you emotionally charged up as he done, you know, for all of us, like you'd have run through a brick wall for Marty, and then worked wee bits and pieces with David. We played with David Jeffrey. We played against Man United, you know, for Harry Gregg's testimonial, and it was an unbelievable experience. And myself and George McMullen walked out of the changing room. We're like, jeez, I'll do anything, you know, to play under David. So, listen, you pick up wee things as you go along, and actually a brilliant story that night, a cracking story. Martin O'Neill was our guest player, and or our guest manager, sorry, and it was David Jeffrey. It was the day after Aguero scored that goal, so it was just after that. So Man United were on a bit of a downer. They were coming over to play us, and David Jeffrey comes in and he goes, Martin's running late, so I'll do the team talk. I named the team and says, this is the team, and blah blah. I was starting, and he says, look, we're only a sideshow, you know, for Man United here. The fans are coming here to watch Man United, so Jonty, Georgie, Jim Irvine, Big Albert, just don't be doing nothing crazy. Just give them the respect they deserve. They're on a bit of a downer. Get the game over with, and we'll all be happy, and we'll all get out of here quickly. And of course, the door busts open. Martin O'Neill comes in, and he takes his jacket off, and he throws his jacket down, and he goes, right, get stuck in these pots, because they'll show you no respect whatsoever. I'm looking around at David Jeffries like this. Jeez, Martin, what are you doing to me? Myself, Georgie, Jim Irvine, all bust out laughing. Couldn't wait to get out, and it was a brilliant experience. And got an out rattle at Nanny, so that was class. But yes, the manager's thing, even like that, you know, getting to see Martin O'Neill's enthusiasm coming in through the door, how could you not, you know, pick up something from that? So pick up wee bits and pieces from every single manager and try to use the best bits of all of them to make my job work. But, you know, you have to have your own stamp on things as well. But yes, you definitely try to pick up wee bits and pieces from everyone.
Yes. So you moved then from St James Swifts to Lisburn Distillery. What's the first few things you do in terms of maybe assembling the backroom staff, assembling new players? What do you what's the first kind of things?
I can't smile there. The backroom staff was easy. I had that in place, you know, obviously from St James's. It was one I wanted to have as Brendan Shannon, because unbelievable coach, and I know him personally, you know, from playing Irish League football. But with no players, with three players I think we had. So it was just get as many players in as quick as possible, and it was I was lucky because I was obviously coaching at Niffle, so I knew some academy players who had previously graduated through, you know, our course. I was able to get in touch with them straight away, get them in, because they were on the fringes of Irish League first teams, and some playing, you know, reserve football, and like one was at Ards, maybe Dundallah. So I was able to get them in quickly and get a team together, which made it as competitive. Well, we were competitive for the first few months, but you could tell we were very young. But we played Ballymacash in an evening game. We drew 2 each with them, and our average age was 21. And with Aaron Smith playing, who's about 36. So if you'd have took him out of it, God knows what our average age was. So that's where we were. But again, it was just we're so late getting into the distillery job that this is the way it had to be. So we knew what we had to do. We identified targets for January, your brother being one. So we identified that where we need to strengthen January, but for the time being, we needed to work with the players we had, and that's what we've done. To be fair, they were brilliant for us. A lot of them have moved on now, and we've obviously improved the squad. But for those 6 months, it was crazy. You know, to be fair, the board had all the fixtures and all pre-season sorted, so that was one thing we didn't have to worry about. So that was brilliant. So it was purely just concentrating on getting players in the door.
And you spoke earlier about having like Lisburn Distillery was win all costs, and then your day job was more development. Is there still a little bit of you wanting to implement like a style of play, or kind of your principles? Everybody gets carried away these days about principles and philosophies and all this stuff.
Listen, you would love to do it the way I would love to do it the way I coach my development team. You know, like we play on 3G surface every day, so we defenders get it in the play from the back and knock a ball in the centre midfield because we've got good centre midfielders. But when it comes to men's football, we tried to play out 3 or 4 times this year and we've been punished because the players are better at our level than what they are at development level. It's just facts, it's black and white. So we've been punished. So, you know, like I'll give you an example. Oran McCart, he's on loan from Larne. He's getting the ball, and when he's training with Larne during the day, he's getting the ball off the goalkeeper and he's turning out and he's probably got Tomas Crossgrove to pass to, who's one of the most comfortable full-backs in the Irish League to give the ball to. So certainly you can do that. But when he's getting the ball here, he's taking the ball out and he's passing it to someone on a bobbly pitch who's playing right back. You know, I think for a few times it was Justy Grattan who's went on and moved on to Harlemouth Welders, who's a brilliant player, brilliant centre midfielder. But the way we had to play him right back, Justy will tell you himself, not overly comfortable on the ball, brilliant breaking up play and making nice passes and moving it, you know, disruptive. But Oran was trying to do what he was doing at Larne, passing the ball to Tomas Crossgrove, which we couldn't do, especially on a bobblier pitch like we have out there. So we got punished a few times from it, and it's having to reset players' way of thinking. So I'm saying to him, Oran, you can't do that, son. You need to be a Distillery player, not a Larne player. I says, during the week, you're a Larne player, which is the same thing applies to my academy players. But in the evenings, you've got to do what we need you to do. And to be fair, since about December, he's been outstanding. He was injured for the last few weeks, but since then he's been outstanding. Just really simplified his game to suit our league and what we need to do to win. So yes, development football, it's completely different. And I would say to any young kids, the first chance you get to go and play men's football, do it at any level, because development football, you don't feel the pressure of what it means to win. Because let's be honest, if you lose playing for Linfield Reserves or Cliftonville Reserves, it doesn't really affect you. You know, your end goal is to play first team. But if you lose here, playing for the first team, it could be my job on the night. So there is that added pressure of you not getting the contract, of you not, you know, of you getting relegated. That's very real here. But in reserve football, none of that pressure exists.
Yeah, I'm in reserve football myself, and at one point, and we try to get the players to play and stuff and to get on the ball, but it's a big difference when they step up a Saturday Barry Gray's team and they're maybe playing away at, I don't know, somewhere like Dundela where it's a tight wee pitch and they have to get 3 points to try and get promoted. You know, it's a different mindset than...
Well, this is it. You know, we looked at this league and the first 6 months was complete learning for me. Played everyone, realised what their strengths and weaknesses were. What we done, we went out and signed about 6 players over 6 foot. We're like a Harlem Globetrotters out there, you know. So that it's like win at all costs. It mightn't suit my philosophy or my coaching style, but at the end of the day, if I'm not in a job, how can I implement my coaching style? Because if we keep losing or had kept losing, the board would have had to let me go, which means I can't coach at all here. And even so, yes, as we move along and hopefully I get time, that we'd like to play a bit more football based now. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we play long balls. We do try to play, and certain pitches, if they're nice, we'll constantly try and play. But in the main, we just have to adapt quickly. I tell the players, you know, they need to adapt really quickly to conditions, you know, the surfaces to get the best results, make good decisions. Like when you adapt, the more good decisions you make, the better you'll be as a player. And again, an example of that's going up to Port Stewart when we got our first win after the first half of the season. It was the conditions, it was gale force wind in our favour in the first half. In the second half, it was obviously blowing in our faces. We defended literally on the penalty spot and just hit them on a counter-attack, and that's what we've done. We got our win, and it gave players confidence, but it was purely down to the players adapting so quickly and taking on the advice, the instructions that they were given. So, you know, you have to give credit to the players for that.
So on a training week then, are you just planning from week to week against like a different opposition, like a game plan to suit an opposition, or do you have like a theme or principles throughout that you try and implement a wee bit, but maybe focus on who you're playing against?
The first 6 months was very, it was more focused on what the opposition were doing. But now it's more, we're more of a routine now. So we'll work on. I spoke to David Healy. I'm very lucky in my job because we train our academy pitch is Olympia and Linfield train in the afternoons. And like I say, I'm very friendly with David, and Ross Oliver was done the same degree as me, so we were in the same class. And I was frustrated about the amount of goals we were conceding. Playing 4, 3 and a 3. And I've always wanted to play a 3 and a 5. And I spoke to my backroom staff. I says, look, we're changing. And they were, no. And I says, look, it's what I feel comfortable with, what I feel comfortable coaching. So I went over to David and Ross and sat with them, must have been for 40 minutes. And obviously, as you do as coaches, talked about what way they coach, because I see them working unopposed on defensive shape. And I've started doing it every single night for 10, 15 minutes at the end of a session. And the difference is like night and day. Every player understands like when to press, when to deny space, what space you move into. And it's just, again, from having those contacts and being brave and going back to your own, like my own principles, like you spoke about earlier, that's starting to pay off for us. So we look a lot more solid defensively. And we've got an attacking threat now in the final third. Again, probably through set pieces more than anything, which is what we'll work on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well.
So you're now into the second half of the season and you are on a little bit of a good run. What do you think has changed between the first half and the second half of the season?
We've just kept manning, and that's being honest. We knew at this league you can't win anything. What was it? Alan Hansen said that famous thing, can't win anything with kids. It was probably the only time it was proven wrong. But for our league, we just needed experienced men who knew how to win in this league. And like I say, we went and got your Brewer. He has been absolutely unbelievable for us. Josh Lynch, it's allowed Josh Lynch to probably flourish into what I think is the best player in the league. And Adam McCart has been massive. Carter Savage, again, once you say these guys, when you stand beside them, they're all like basketball. Well, maybe just me because I'm like a hobbit, but they're all huge. And we have been a threat. Our deliveries have always been brilliant, but we just didn't have no one to get on the end of them. So straight away, even if we're one down now, we know we can score. So it's a completely different mindset with us. We kind of believe more, and that's what the key was. It was, I think, the young lads. We went to Ballymacash and drew 2-2. We were 2-0 down in the first half of the season, and I thought we're really going to kick on here. But for whatever reason, there was no consistency with young kids. And then we went on a couple of bad runs, or a couple of bad games, a couple of losing games. But now, even after losing the Banbridge, the manner we've done, conceding in the 93rd minute, after coming back twice, the 2 each, the players now, they reset themselves and they bounce back from, knockbacks much, much better. And it's just age and experience. It's nothing other than that. Technically, we probably had better players first half of the season, but for what the players now give us, it's completely night and day. And if you ask me, in our league, what you need, it's exactly what we have now. It's just men who are willing to lead, put their bodies on the line and go and attack things and just make good, intelligent decisions.
Very good. And what's the goal then for the second part of the season?
Well, but it's just to survive this year. Like we set down a target at the start of the year, with the board, but we set the target as just survival. Make sure we're in this league next year where we'll have a good foundation to build. But on a personal level now, just because of the way things have went four of the last 5 games, I think we need to be looking at the top half of the table, and that's being honest with you. So we have reset our targets as a staff and as players, but obviously the board we want to make sure that we're safe first, which keeps the board happy. But privately, we want to push on for top 6 definitely, and be playing against the big teams come the split. So that's where we are. That's what we think is realistic to us.
And long term then, what's the long term goals for the club?
It has to be the Premiership, or else what's the sense? what is genuinely the sense of us being here and wanting to get players in to give us a foundation for next year to build. We look at Bangor, who have turned us over twice. It sounds stupid, but there's no way that over the 2 games is 10 goals. There's no way they're 10 goals better than us. You know, Ballymacaish we drew with, and they've went toe to toe with Bangor all season. We just needed consistency, and now we're finding a wee bit of consistency. I think that if the board, I'm saying this with a smile by the way on my face, if the board trusts us and, you know, can help us, you know, with a bit of backing, then there's no reason why next season, maybe the season after, we can't really push on and give ourselves an unbelievable chance to get to the championship. And then again, with the championship, it brings in more supporters, that'll bring in more income hopefully, which again will allow the club to kick on and maybe push for, you know, the Premiership, which I think has to be a target because it's too big of a club not to be.
And personally, what's your ambitions and what's your goals for the future? Just
to go as far and as high as I can in management, and you know, that's it. I've never really turned around. We're telling the laugh, didn't think I wanted to manage, would love to manage Cliftonville, but the more I think about that, it would probably terrify me because I'd be scared of being a failure and tarnishing, you know, the club I've supported all my life, like that reputation, you know, and the rapport you have with a fan. So I was actually just thinking about that the other day, and myself and Mark Smith were talking about it, and you wonder to yourself, just go somewhere else, you know, go and try and make a club be good, win things, and it doesn't matter what club it is, and it doesn't, genuinely doesn't. So at the start it was all an end goal, would love to manage Cliftonville, but now, you know, I just want to go as far as I can for myself and obviously my staff in football, you know, whatever league or whatever club it is, doesn't matter to me. It just, as long as I be true to myself, you know, like in terms of do it my way, and as long as the board backs me and supports me, I'll know I've done it my way, and if it fails, then at least I tried it. But if it doesn't, and I've changed my principles, then, you know, I'll never know whether I was good enough to do it or not.
Brilliant. Well, Barry, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you and Lisburn Distillery all the best for the future.
Thank you very much, mate.